Hey guys, welcome in. This is Brad with College SportsCast. Tonight we have a special guest with us, and this is a special show for us. We're going to be doing our game day pick'em, but we're going to start with an interview. We have Landrum Roberts with us tonight. Hey Landrum, how are you?
Broses, I'm doing well. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope everybody there is doing well.
That's great. We are, and happy Thanksgiving to you. Landrum is on the 94.5 Jocks Birmingham Sports Radio station. He does the Morning Jocks show, and he also does the three-man front on the radio for 94.5 Jocks. So we're excited to have Landrum on with us today. And John Roberts knows Landrum, and he kind of led Landrum being with us. So I'm going to throw it to him and let him kind of answer or ask some questions for Landrum.
Hey, Landrum. So we got Landrum here from Jocks 94.5, the co-host of the three-man front and the Morning Jocks. Morning Jocks from 6 to 7 a.m. Central, three-man front from 10 to 12 Central, Monday through Friday. That is correct, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Yeah, you can listen to them if you're outside the Birmingham area, which a lot of the people that listen to us are outside the Birmingham area. You can go through the Jocks app or the website, I guess. Mainly the app is where I would be pushing for.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and
Jocks 94.5 app. You can download it. You can take the show. We're college football centric, 365 days a year, so you can take us wherever you go throughout your travels. But
and of course,
I appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah. All right. But first, so CFP posted their top 25 last night, and going through the top 10. Is there anything that stood out to you from what they posted?
Well, first of all, having the chairman of the college football playoff committee, the fact that his name is Boo, and the fact that he is using terms like they've got dudes on defense is awesome to me. The transparency, but
Right.
they are absolutely in a impossible spot to have the 13 members of that committee to have to week break down where sometimes it's a frog hair difference between this team and that team. I think the thing that stood out to me was you have an LSU team that they ranked 5th last night behind TCU at 4. And then behind LSU, they have USC, who they were praising and talking about how many points they were scoring per game. Then USC adds a notch to their belt. They play their rival, UCLA. They win by 3, but then the thing that is noted is the fact, on the road, but the thing that is noted is the fact that they're giving up a bunch of points.
Right.
And and look, I'm an SEC flag bearer. I think that the Southeastern Conference, and I don't think we need any more proof, has the best football, has the best athletes. You can ask NFL scouts, or you just go back and you can look through the record books at championships. But the week to week difference and the reasoning and the rationale that we get from the college football playoff committee is, I don't have a problem with it. It's like I said, it's a tough spot, but I think it is comical, and for me, it's entertainment just to hear what Boo Corrigan is going to have to say, or whoever is the committee chair that week or that year is going to have to say, because they absolutely run in circles. But in their defense, I don't think they really have any choice. But LSU at 5 with 2 losses was the thing that really stood out to me.
I agree with that. What do you think about Alabama at 7?
Don't have a problem with it at all. If you go eye test, and that's what we're supposed to do, you try to rationalize, a Clemson team that should be ranked ahead of Alabama. You're going to have a hard time doing it. And in Clemson's defense, the years that they played their schedule, and maybe it was a Texas A&M in game 2 of their regular season, and then the ACC, which they couldn't control, was weak, and I believe is still top to bottom the weakest conference that's out there. But they don't have an elite quarterback. They don't have the elite skill players that they've had at the running back position and also the wide receiver position. And you go eye test, and you're going to try to convince me that Clemson is a better team than Alabama? Absolutely not. So Alabama at 7, I don't have a problem with. I think Alabama USC, that would be fascinating. We've already seen Alabama and LSU, but then, and I don't want to go down a wormhole, but if we went Alabama and TCU, that's where a real discussion starts, because I would have a hard time believing that TCU would beat Alabama.
Well, so what do you think about Tennessee dropping to 10?
Tennessee, I love this Tennessee team. I absolutely loved and I still do, what Josh Heupel did and coming in, facing an impossible task, flipping that roster, getting guys like Jalen Hyatt, and of course, Cedric Tillman, Hendon Hooker, absolutely making himself a whole lot of money coming from Virginia Tech, and just fitting those pieces together. And it did remind me of a 2010 Auburn team with Gene Chizik, and having a dynamic guy at quarterback, the right system with Gus Malzahn, Cam Newton at quarterback, having a Nick Fairley on the defensive line. But outside of that, not having just, elite top to bottom talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball and at the wideout position, but it worked. That being said, I was just blown away by what South Carolina was able to do in that game. So, I think South Carolina, what Shane Beamer and Spencer Rattler playing out of his mind, were able to do to them. No, it kind of puts into perspective the week to week and how you can't put all of this stock that we naturally do as college football fans, and I do have to do on a weekly basis in one particular team. And then that's what separates a team like a Georgia, or in past years, a team like an Alabama, from the rest of the field.
And that's kind of like,
hang on. The reason why I asked you about Tennessee is Tennessee beat LSU and they beat Alabama.
Absolutely.
And they're 10 and LSU's 5 and Alabama's 7.
No, and
they have the same records.
No, and you're exactly right. I think the difference there is what I look at, and maybe it's a surprise. The way that they looked against Georgia, that was the first warts that we saw. How are they going to match up on the road against a Georgia team that is elite? We can all agree on that, and they have been for the last couple of years under Kirby Smart. Didn't have a problem with that. Gave them the benefit of the doubt. Still would have them above TCU, and I clamored for it. And I argued with my showmate Pat Smith for an hour about how Tennessee and their resume and the eye test was better than TCU, and that was just last week prior to balls going to Columbia, South Carolina.
Right.
But then when you look, and I know that Hendon Hooker, and it's so unfortunate. But you look at what happened in Columbia, and it's hard to get that taste out of your mouth.
It is. I agree with that.
It's not fair. It's not fair to Tennessee because I think that the win over Pitt on the road at the time, albeit it was overtime, impressive win. What they were able to do in Death Valley against LSU, just whipping them 40-13, absolutely.
Right.
But then you start going through it, and unfortunately, it's what have you done for me lately, and what did we see last? And I saw a South Carolina team has not impressed at times this season for whatever reasons. I've seen Spencer Rattler be Spencer Rattler. Guys, would you not agree? It's just hard to get what we saw where it was really never even a game.
No, it wasn't.
Last Saturday night.
It was a whooping, actually, from South Carolina. So,
yeah, and really, when you mentioned the 2010 Auburn team right there. That actually kind of reminded me, even, with the 2010 Alabama and the 2010 South Carolina. I mean, Tennessee could be the 2010 Alabama of this year, with having 2 losses, one to Georgia, kind of like they did against Auburn, and one to and then one against Alabama, or sorry, South Carolina. Beating Alabama, and then having to play against like Auburn or something like that and losing or whatnot.
Sure.
And they had Steven Garcia, who played out of his mind against Alabama and was able to beat them. And so you kind of compare Tennessee to the Alabama team, and who lost, like I said, to Auburn and to South Carolina, and South Carolina being that same thing, 2010 South Carolina, and it just kind of looking like that, where they were like they're that close, but they're very talented, but they just whatever it was, they just didn't win. But moving on, I mean, I know, within the SEC, and I know we're here with Landrum Roberts of 94.5, Jocks 94.5 in Birmingham, and I'm actually here at Troops Pizza in Cahaba Heights in Birmingham. So if you hear any background noise, that's what it is. But Auburn has had a little bit of, has been in the news lately, with the coaching search, and there's been a coach within the SEC, Lane Kiffin, and the last 48 to 72 hours has been just absolute madhouse on Twitter, and it's hilarious. Have you been keeping up with all of that? And what would you what do you know, being a radio guy within Birmingham, within the state of Alabama where Auburn is, about this? What's the latest you've heard?
Well, full disclosure, I'm a Juice Kiffin fan. He's a British Labrador. I've got a black Labrador named George, who I'm looking at right now, who I call my son. I've raised 6 other Labradors prior to George, and that's you want to pull on my heartstrings. Give me a lab that shows up wagging his tail, and he's just looking to play, and he wants to fetch, and he just wants to hang out. So Juice Kiffin is number one, foremost. Forget about Lane. Forget about everything else. Juice Kiffin is my favorite follow on Twitter, and I don't know. It's just it's a weakness that I have. But yes, absolutely. I've been following this, and the whole, Brian Harsin, that was never a fit. It never felt like he unpacked his boxes.
I agree with that.
And I don't think that was entirely his fault. I think with the dysfunction that has been the Auburn athletic department, and I guess you have to encapsulate it and you have to label it as a whole. But I do believe it's a new day, and I'm not standing here trying to give an Auburn infomercial, but I do think that John Cohen being hired, the president, Christopher Roberts, I do believe it's going to be different. And for the naysayers, and rightly so, that criticize Auburn and how things have been done in the past, there's deserved criticism. But I will say that I think that the Auburn coaching search, and from day one, and from having, when we were on the air, we did not expect it to happen when it did on that Monday, and it happened at 11:55, right after, and that's the conspiracy. It's like, okay, because we had been embedded in it, didn't know it was going to happen that day, but when it did, the first thing that we heard, and I know that Lane Kiffin, his name had come up prior to the Allen Green, I guess you could say, rogue hiring of Brian Harsin, that Lane Kiffin was interested, right. And to hear that name, and Pat Smith, who I respect, and I have the pleasure not only to, and the honor to call him my friend, but somebody I work with every day who I truly respect, who's been doing this for a long, long time. He was the pioneer of the Paul Feinbaum radio network, co-creator of that. and is a guy that absolutely gets it. And he's covered 11 coaching searches between Auburn and Alabama in his career. And I mean, you think about that, that's a lot of coaches. And what he's, said from the beginning, it's never the first name you hear. And I got to thinking about it just as a fan and as a listener looking from the outside in the periphery. And he's absolutely right. It's never the first name you hear. The most amazing thing to me has been that there's never been a wavering from, and we don't know what's going to happen, but never a wavering of Lane Kiffin and him being that name. And I'll say this for Auburn: if you want to say good job, whatever, Lane Kiffin is an absolute splash hire. If he does end up going to Auburn, which I do believe that is in place, that is going to happen. But I'll say this, for Auburn to swing big and for the names like, in past searches, and John, you guys can attest to this. I can remember when bigger names were being mentioned, and then all of a sudden, are you kidding? Gene Chizik? What?
Right.
5-19, Gene
Exactly.
Chizik? Some of the names that you would hear.
Same thing happened with Harrison too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So, for the fact that Auburn is willing to spend that kind of money, that everybody seems to be on the same page, maybe it's a new day, and maybe people are coming to their senses, and, maybe the old way of doing things, that's, college football and college athletics has changed a lot in the last 18 to 24 months. So I think Lane Kiffin to Auburn, do I think, it's going to bring championships to Auburn? Honestly, I don't know. Lane Kiffin has won a Conference USA championship as a head coach, and that was at Florida Atlantic. SEC, you're swimming with the big sharks. But I'll say this, I've seen Gene Chizik win one. I have seen Gus Malzahn win one. I have seen Terry Bowden, under probation, but 11-0 perfect season and winning 20 straight. I've seen Tommy Tuberville do it. So history would say yes, with the exception of Brian Harsin, that, Lane Kiffin, he'll have all the tools he needs once it's announced. And I'll think that it will be this weekend that Lane Kiffin will have success. And, if you're Lane Kiffin, you really blame him?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have a follow-up question to that. So
Okay.
if Kiffin does take the Auburn job, does Ole Miss look at Deion Sanders?
I would.
Yes, do it.
I absolutely would. First of all, you're not going to have to pay the relocation and moving expenses. I mean, he's right there. No, I'm kidding.
He's in Mississippi.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, with Deion, and that's so fascinating. The one thing that we hear, and I think Deion, I don't know how he would coach. Nobody does as a Power 5 head coach.
No.
It's unproven. I know that he attracts a lot of attention, a lot of pub, as does Lane Kiffin, by the way.
Yep.
But I do know that the Prime Academy, and his Primetime Academy, his Prime Academy that he started, that has apparently in back channels when candidate name comes across university president's desk, who ultimately, when you're running a functional athletic department, has to sign off on hire. I've heard that has come under scrutiny, and you can go and you can dig up, whatever that is. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know what some of the blowback, the pushback is with the Prime Academy.
Right.
But apparently there has been hesitation from college presidents throughout his name is coming up with certain things, surrounding the Prime Academy. So does that mean he will never get a Power 5 job? No, absolutely not. But if you couple that with, some of the other uncertainties and what Prime would require as a head coach would be absolutely over the top autonomy. And basically I'll call you on game day and I'll let you know, who we're playing. I think that could be a problem. But yeah, at Ole Miss, do I think it's fit? No. But I don't know where Deion's a fit. I mean, what would you guys say? Where would Deion Sanders be a fit besides Florida State? Just give me that. Give me that.
I just think that
I actually thought he might be a pretty good fit at Georgia Tech, maybe.
Well, and I see
because
that.
he's from Georgia. I mean, I realize Georgia Tech has some academic standards that maybe that wouldn't fit Deion as well, though.
Well, and I throw that question out to you guys because does it really matter about fit anymore? Because I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I think it matters about splash. It matters about attention. It matters about retweets and likes and whether you agree with Lane Kiffin on social media. You know what? He gets attention. He gets headlines.
Well, so does Deion.
Deion does it too.
And you're talking about a splash hire. If Kiffin was to leave Ole Miss and they could hire Deion Sanders, that'd be a splash hire.
It would absolutely be a splash hire.
And that would go right into my chaos. My love for chaos would be to have Deion go to Ole Miss the moment that Kiffin goes to Auburn. So that would be. I've been all for it.
No, and I'm all about the chaos. I mean, you know what we do on a daily basis. Chaos is good.
Yes.
It can be a headache at times trying to keep up with it, but no, it's
It gives us something to talk about, right?
Oh, sure it does. But then it goes back to my point: who is a fit for who? If you're looking for that coach he fits with the ideals of our program and our benchmark and what we was. Come on, give me a break. That doesn't work anymore. And your investment is a max 5-year investment. Stop saying, well, I'm just worried he's not going to be here for 10 years. You know, the average coaching lifespan in the SEC, and this goes back to, I can't remember the year. It's less than 5 years.
Yeah, it's less. Yeah.
It's like 4-point-something years.
Yeah.
So plan for 5 years. Stay relevant. Stay in the conversation. Whether you win 8 games, 9 games, 10 games, or, whatever, stay relevant because that's where it is with recruits. NIL, that's a huge part of it. And just be in the conversation. And so if I'm an Auburn fan, you know what? You got somebody who, if he does agree, and, anything can happen, but when Lane Kiffin becomes a coach, you got somebody that knows Alabama, that knows Nick Saban, and he's a guy that, it's going to frustrate some Auburn people. But you know what? Nick Saban can be Nick Saban because Nick Saban wins, and nobody complains, right?
Correct.
Right.
Bill Belichick can be a jerk because he wins world championships.
Right.
Lane Kiffin can be awkward, and he can be a social media
nightmare sometimes.
But if he wins, all is forgiven.
Right. But I'm just saying,
nice guys that go 4-8, nobody gives a damn at the end of the day.
Right.
Correct.
So you're 100% right.
Yep. Hey, so here with Landrum, Robertson, Jocks 94.5, and now that we're getting into the rivalry week, and so we've got the Egg Bowl with Lane's current school as of right now on Wednesday, November 23rd at 7:32 p.m. Central Time.
Right.
It is Lane's current school of Ole Miss and Mississippi State. We've got that one going. We've got the highly touted prospect school of Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl on Saturday. There's the Ohio State Michigan game that's going on. There's plenty of rivalries that are going on. It also including LSU and A&M, which I keep for my chaos. Keep saying that A&M might pull it off.
You stop it. You stop it, John.
Yeah, he does.
John, we share the same last name. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yes.
He does keep saying that.
It's gracious. It's for my chaos. For my chaos, it would be hilarious just to see it, even though everything about me says I do not want A&M to win another game or have any sort of success.
Well, there hasn't been another disaster of a team more than A&M this year, so
which is awesome.
No.
But anyway, yeah. So Well, how are we feeling about all these different games here? How are we leaning about the Ole Miss and the and Mississippi State Egg Bowl with the two buddies and two weirdos in Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin?
Ole Miss was a slight favorite, and the last time I checked, around 2.5. Earlier we were seeing scuttlebutt, and it's just craziness in Oxford that they were debating on whether to even let Lane Kiffin coach the game. This is how much
That's
things
crazy.
change. Yes, from their insiders, it went from all demands have been met, to it is believed, and apparently the TV reporter John Sokolov, who everyone was chastising, apparently he learned this information before we did, and it does look like there is a new head coaching search that will be taking place at Ole Miss, but Ole Miss will be better for it. And there's some other information that, as far as their NIL, there's certain people that had reluctance to support Lane Kiffin for whatever reason, and you can probably figure out if you look at the Mount Rushmore of Ole Miss, who those people would be. And that now they're throwing their full weight into the program. All of that being said, and sorry, I mean, there's so many wormholes we can go down with this.
I got you on that one.
Oh, this is great because
I got you on that one.
Just even on the Twitter level, just on the level of the fan bases, are looking at the different right.
Yes, yeah. I think that.
I'm a Mike Leach fan. I really like Mike Leach. He gives some of the greatest responses to anything you could ask, and he's just fun to listen to be honest with you.
So you sit there and you go, well, are you happy or are you sad that he's leaving? Like, would you be happy or are you disappointed? What is it? And
right.
Then it's just the whole tide has turned, in Oxford, and it's funny, it's hilarious just to watch this, and it's crazy, and that's why I love the chaos. And
does all this mess give Mike Leach a chance to win this game tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think the problem that I think you're going to get an inspired group of Ole Miss players that come out. I don't think that Lane Kiffin and that staff, I don't think they mail it in. I do think that Mississippi State, they can have success through the air on an Ole Miss defense that, quite frankly, I mean, pick your spot. And I know they shut out Georgia Tech, but it was Georgia Tech under Jeff Collins before Brent Key when he took over. And by the way, Brent Key's done a wonderful job.
He has.
In the interim and getting those guys, and it's not unlike what Carnell has done to a lesser degree at Auburn. But I do think that the Ole Miss running game, that scheme, that attack, it's ultimately going to be too much. I think Ole Miss wins. That's going to be a nail biter. But yeah, that's going to be a wild scene. But you know what? We've gotten snow during that game. We've gotten fake peeing on a goalpost in that game. Auburn and Alabama, some of the fans take it too far and they hate each other. That is a game tomorrow, guys, as you're digesting your Thanksgiving dinner, lunch, breakfast, eating all day. That is a game where watch those players in that game, and they genuinely hate each other.
Yep, they do.
And God bless America, and God bless college football in America.
The fans do too, some.
They do.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. John Roberts, you got another question for him?
Yeah. I mean, again, you're going into the Iron Bowl. Cadillac Williams leading a team where he has actually played in this game, and of course, a very memorable one. This happened to be my freshman year, which was Go Crazy Cadillac. and just everything that he has done for the program and stuff like that. So going, talk about the Iron Bowl now that we're gotten past the Egg Bowl.
Yeah, I think that I see 22. I don't think Vegas is that far off. I think Bryce Young and what Alabama can do through the passing game will ultimately be the biggest difference in that game. Auburn's going to play hard. Auburn just offensively, I think for Pete Golding, that defensive staff, and they still have, as Drew Corrigan would say, they still have a lot of dudes on that defense. Alabama does. Not a whole lot that they have to prepare for, and while simple can be better for that offensive attack for Auburn, I mean, guys, they'll flip at it. The
Yeah,
second half against Western Kentucky was one thing. Um, you know, you didn't score a whole lot of points against Texas A&M. You won the game, and then Mississippi State, hell of a second half effort. But I think Auburn's they're so limited. I do think Auburn keeps it under the number, especially with the weather that they're predicting, and it's rain. But I think Alabama's, they win this game by 14 to 17 points.
yeah. I think this game, if it was in Jordan Hare rallying around Cadillac Williams, they might have a little better chance. But I agree with you, Landrum. I think Alabama handles this game pretty fairly easy anyway.
And I agree too, because with it being, if it were in Jordan Hare, then there's that possibility that Alabama has those one of those 12 to 15 penalties, 120 something yards of penalty yardage, and just has turnovers and just can't put it together, and that would be something that would help Auburn, propel them to a victory. But with it being in Bryant Denny, and Alabama has just been a heck of a lot better and a just completely different team there than on the road, especially in that kind of environment. Yeah, I don't see anything other than an Alabama victory, but maybe that it is underneath the number just because of the weather conditions and whatnot. But that's what I see.
Right.
Yep. Any other games? I mean, we got the Ohio State,
Yeah,
Michigan game or anything like that. I mean, we got a few others if you wanted
yeah,
me to
yeah.
chime in on
So
those. Or
so Michigan, Ohio State. It's interesting. Neither one of these teams has overly impressed me. I will say this, and it's something I kind of picked up on. I do think that Michigan is more physical than Ohio State. I think that Michigan, while they're not as flashy with the wide receiving core that the Buckeyes have, or even the quarterback, I do think that Michigan is a gritty, hard nosed team. I don't see this one going into the 30s or the 40s. I think it's a low scoring game, but I have to think that ultimately Ohio State they pull it out. This is going to be a field goal game. Buckeyes win, and then Buckeyes get scrubbed when they eventually make it to the national championship game, just like they did a few years ago with Justin Fields as the quarterback. In my
So is
right,
opinion,
Michigan going to have quorum? Have you heard anything on that?
and they've been limited on that information. I know he had the knee injury, and he said I'll be back. He didn't say when, and apparently
Right.
24 hours after the injury, Blake Corum's passing out turkeys and doing things for the community, which is great. But I don't know. I know that his odds in Vegas right now, as far as the Heisman Trophy race, you have Caleb Williams as the favorite according to Vegas. Next, you have C.J. Stroud, and then Blake Corum, your token running back selection that they have to include because it's a quarterback award now. It
Right.
seems every single year is at plus 850. But I have to believe that if he does play, guys, I don't think that he is the quorum that we're used to seeing.
right.
Right.
Is there any other games that you really want to touch in on before I guess ask the last little question here?
What about
So
Notre Dame USC? Just real quick.
yeah, I think this sets up. I think Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, they go in, and it's a rivalry game. I think that the Pac-12 holds serve as far as stepping on their own feet, if you will. And I think that Notre Dame actually gets it done. I think that Notre
Yes.
Dame wins
Yes.
that football game.
Chaos.
And yeah, if you want to call it chaos, you can call it whatever, but
Well,
we
that's
can call
it's
it
at
just
USC too. So
absolutely. We call it status quo. Pac-12 once again strikes out and is left out of the college football playoff.
status quo. I like
There you
that.
go. There you go. All right. Well, the last thing I really wanted to touch on was Landrum. You are a part of the UAB broadcast team, being the sideline reporter there, and UAB. Just talk about UAB this season, and their next game. I believe it's La Tech right this weekend.
Yeah, it's Law Tech and guys, this UAB team watching and get to travel the team, get to know while already new members of the team doing the pregame show in the past, now being a full member of the broadcast team. Dwayne McBride, that running attack, amazing. Dwayne McBride, the only group of 5 semifinalists for the Maxwell Award for the nation's most outstanding college football player. The only group of 5 semifinalists for the Doak Walker Award. Last week in Baton Rouge, used sparingly. Part of that was what LSU presented on the defensive line and their defensive scheme, but a lot of that was just putting emphasis on Louisiana Tech and what this game means to a lot of these seniors. 5 losses, 27 points doesn't tell the story. This is a UAB football team that's still got a lot of talent. And the thing that I've been impressed with the most is how they've been unwavering. And I'll say this for a guy that I respect a whole lot and I've known since he was a high school coach and cut his teeth here in the state of Alabama, Bryant Vincent, as a leader of young men and leading a program, and how assistants and how football players, that entire team, would run through a wall for him. Wins and losses are not always indicative of who you have heading a program. And I think Brian Vincent absolutely is a great guy. I don't know who the candidates are for that head coaching job. I know that one of them is Bryant Vincent, but I think UAB gets it done in Ruston. Their running attack, and by the way, Louisiana Tech is 130th out of 131 FBS teams against the run. So
That should bode well for them.
yeah, go get you some Dwayne
in your
McBride.
Yep.
Yeah, so their running back UAB, isn't he like 3rd or 4th in the country in yards?
He should be up there, definitely.
Oh, wait a second. I think we
But
lost him.
We lost Landrum.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
think we lost him.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if we're going to get him back, but I just wanted to say that was right there at the end of our interview, right there with Landrum Roberts of Jocks 94.5, and he was talking about UAB. He was talking about Dwayne McBride. He was talking about how UAB, while they don't have a great record right now, they are, with his insights on the team, that team is much more than what that record shows. But again, it's we had Landrum Roberts from Jocks 94.5. You can find him on Twitter. If you search at Landrum Roberts, and you can find you can listen to him on the Jocks app if you're outside the Birmingham area, or within the Birmingham area, Jocks 94.5, and getting on the Jocks app. He is from 3-man front from 10 to 12 Monday through Friday, and the morning Jocks 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. So he basically bookends the Mac and Cube show with Greg McElroy and Cole Kublik. So he is on both sides. But yeah, it was awesome to see it, and I wish I could have said thank you to him. I know he appreciates it.
Yeah,
But
we definitely wanted to, end it a different way than this for sure.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not,
yep,
but we lost him. It seems like so. But we appreciate Landrum Roberts being on with us. It's a big deal for us, and it was great talking football with him. He has a lot of knowledge, and it was fun to do.
yep.
So we will end this for now, and we appreciate Landon Roberts being on with us. And this was a fun episode to do. John Roberts, we appreciate you getting him on for us, and we appreciate you guys listening in to us. And y'all have a good night and have a happy Thanksgiving. And we hope that everybody has a fun, safe holiday, and everybody gets lots of good eats, right?
Exactly.
Lots of good food. Eat some turkey and some dressing, and
Yep.